back to Better Every Day. John and Darren back with you. Darren, here we go again.
I am excited about our topic today, John. I'm excited because I'm taking my wife to Napa with our grown children for 5 wine tastings and some good dinner for her birthday. And then we're off to Europe. So it is a
you've
busy
got
time.
quite a couple months.
A
month ago and then the next month.
Yeah.
The anniversary, the milestone birthdays. I mean, it's a good time to be a root right now.
We were married 40 years. And so when I had a board meeting in Boston, and so we wandered over to, Michelle went with me, we wandered over to Nantucket, and that was fun. It's beautiful. It's everything you think it would be, but it was probably just a few too many t-shirt shops for me.
Yeah.
To spend Panama City. Of time. Well, a nicer version of Panama, maybe.
Nice. Yeah, upscale Panama City.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it was beautiful. The homes are beautiful. The real estate's beautiful. But once you've seen, a t-shirt shop, you've seen most of them.
Yep. I know it well. Those are the places I still vacation because I've got kids that age. So.
Good point.
So you and I are living in a different world. I can see your world on my horizon, but got a senior in high school and a freshman in high school. So we're our vacations are a little different, but they're good too.
You need Reese to get his driver's license.
We're so close. He just got his permit. Yeah, he's much different than London. He is digging the Tesla. London was scared about everything, and Reese wants to fly around. So I'm a little more nervous about his experience. He's not scared of anything.
Michelle says I drive like an old man now, but I remember my parents asking me to slow down. So somewhere in there, it changes.
Yep, it sure does. Well, we've been talking a lot about the idea of what's in our dreams. What do we, and by that I don't mean what happens when we sleep, but what are the things that we think about when we're daydreaming, when we're thinking about the way we wish our life was, when we wish we could do something. You and I do this a lot. And recently we've just been really poking in on what those dreams look like and then what keeps us from them. I know you're passionate about this right now.
Well, because I've been on a few airplanes lately, I have a tendency to watch the same thing over and over again on occasion, because when I watch something, I miss certain aspects of it. So
Ralph Lauren,
I'm going to suggest, and maybe it's just because I'm a fan, but this HBO documentary on Ralph Lauren, it's called Very Ralph. I would suggest anybody listening to us would enjoy the 50-year history of Ralph Lauren.
Absolutely.
I think he started Ralph Lauren or Polo in 1967. So this HBO series is 5 or 6 years old. But I think one of the things that I love everything about this documentary, because it's just right in my wheelhouse. Partly because I worked in men's clothing store that we had a huge polo section back in the late 70s, early 80s. So, I was really in tune to when it was taking off, and now it's coming back around for sure. Right.
Yeah. The popped collars, the polo shirts. Oh yeah. I remember them all.
But I think one of the things that I love most about this documentary is how Ralph embraces this concept of dreaming. And a dream is, he talks about being just a dream, but a dream manifested can become your reality. And that word manifested is, I think, really interesting.
I love that word too. For some reason, I immediately go to Reese when I think about that word. So Reese is different, man. My kids are so different, but he is different than anybody I've ever met. He loves Ralph Lauren. And the reason is because of his cowboy hat. Reese is
Mm.
infatuated with the Old West, but making it cool. So he's listening to old country music. He's a Johnny Cash. Like
I remember
he's like
going
a
through those days.
old, yes, old soul, 15 years old listening to Johnny Cash. And he wanted to buy a cowboy hat when we were in Colorado, but he couldn't find the right one. And his infatuation with Ralph is like this guy who doesn't seem to care about what other people think. It's about
No.
what he sees. And I think my son is living in that. What I'm trying to keep from happening is squelching that in him. Because at some
Yeah.
point, what happened to me is that I got to an age where sometime after Reese's age of 15, where I was like, well, dreams are dreams. And I I got this feeling that they don't come true, that you just dream. And Reese is still at that age where I would love to help him understand what it means to manifest what's going on in your head about your life.
I think that's one of the best gifts you can give him, John. It's that creativity
Yeah.
that I think lives inside of us, but so early on gets sort of squelched
Mm.
by, I don't know if it's our parents, our siblings, life, kids at school, whatever it is. We have these dreams, and I still have them today. It's like this is a dream that I've never manifested, nor have I ever told anybody.
Might as well do it in front of thousands on the podcast.
Nothing to be embarrassed of here, but
That's right. That's right.
I used to think the coolest thing was when I would watch the old movies and the guys wore their hats.
Mm-hmm.
You had a suit on and you had the hat.
Yeah.
Fedora. I never had the guts to actually put the hat, to do the hat.
Yeah.
But I always sort of dreamed that, man, that's what an elegant guy in a suit looks like with a hat. And I always appreciated when somebody would just pull that off with like disregard, kind of like Reese, just disregard for what everybody else thinks.
Yeah.
Because what difference does it make?
Absolutely.
Right. But that's a very simple dream manifested, is just to live that. And where Ralph is phenomenal is he has this ranch out in Colorado, and he dreams of being a cowboy. And when he's in Colorado, his kids say, in this documentary, he's a cowboy. He dresses as a cowboy. He does the cowboy thing. So what's not real about that for him? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's so interesting, and the documentary makes this really clear, is that what we believe is cool has never changed.
Yeah.
And it's the ability to do what Ralph did and go, I don't really care. This is what I see. And what we then began to follow with Polo and Ralph Lauren brand was the feeling of, I'm going to be who I want to be. Now, ironically, we ended up, everybody wanted to be Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
But that's not what he ever intended. What he intended was to go manifest the thing that he saw in his, and that's what people follow. And I don't think it's about, if you look at a polo shirt, you were wearing one recently. It's beautiful. It's classic, but there's not really that much difference between what it is and other things you might pull off the rack somewhere else. It's more about what it stands for. And what Ralph Lauren stands for is like kind of timeless cool. And what is timeless cool is, I'm going to go get what I see. I'm going to go do what I feel and what I see. That's what's cool.
What Ralph has always been really good at is this concept of timeless elegance. Yeah. And instead of just seeing it, like he would go watch the old Fred Astaire movies. And so instead of just seeing those old Fred Astaire movies and how elegant Fred would dress in those, Ralph would go create those clothes. He may trim them up a little bit. He may lower the waist on the pants a little bit or whatever, or trim down the legs. But people still love that. Yeah. We still love vintage cars that have been restored. There's some nostalgia to all that. I'll let you a little deeper down my rabbit hole, John. So another thing that I've just always noticed, again, a lot of this is about noticing, I think. Yeah. who you are and what makes you feel good as a person.
Hmm.
So whenever I'm in, let's say the Ralph Lauren lounge and the RL bar in Chicago, which every time I'm in Chicago, Michelle and I have reservations there every afternoon for drinks and appetizers. It's fantastic. And then we usually go back for dinner. So we love it. So the question is, why do we love it so much? And Ralph has pulled off a vibe in there. And that vibe is sort of comfy, elegant, but then there's always this music playing in the background, like Fred Astaire, or not Fred Astaire, like Tony Bennett or Frank Sinatra or something. And you're just feeling really relaxed and like you're in this really just cool, elegant place. So I got home one time and I was thinking, what is it I love so much about being in there? And some of it was the music, I realized. It's like, why in my closet when I'm getting ready in the morning or whatever, again, way too much information here. But
don't picture this.
Right. When I'm getting ready, I mean, why not just say, hey, I shouldn't say this because I got Siri behind me, but hey, Siri, why not play Tony Bennett? I knew my phone went off. Why not, play Tony Bennett? And oh, geez.
I'm playing Tony Bennett.
Stop.
There she goes.
But now it's playing. I don't know if you can hear it. It's playing in the background.
I can't hear it.
Turn off. But I know this is super simple, but that's like a dream manifested. It's paying attention. And I don't know what that means. Oh, stop, Siri. It's like, it's paying attention to the things that you love that inspire you in life, and then manifesting those. I mean, it's one thing just to appreciate it. It's another thing to make it a part of your life. Does that make any sense at all?
It does. It does. For me, our examples are always different. Our lifestyles are a little different. And for me, when I bought the house from my dad that I grew up in, log cabin and 40 acres of land, I had the dream of returning the pond that we grew up with to its estate. It drained when I was a kid. And my dad tried pigs. He tried concrete. He tried all these things to patch this pond. It's the first time I ever really saw my dad cry was when that pond drained and we had to take the fish out and take them down to the creek. And it was just this source of joy for my family. So when I bought the house from my parents, I thought I could picture where that was. Now it's all grown up, trees everywhere. And I would tell Reese, hey, we're going to go out. We're going to take a chainsaw. We're going to cut all those trees, a full acre and a half of trees. And we are going to get this pond back. And for me, it was about how overwhelming the job seemed, that it took years. And finally, I'm standing out on my back porch one day and I told Risha, I have this dream that's starting to break my heart because I'm not sure it's ever going to happen. But while my dad can still enjoy it, I want him to see that pond again. And it took my wife to say, why aren't you doing it?
Right.
What are we doing if we're not doing that? And we changed our financial priorities, and Reese and I tore down. We spent the next 3 weeks, which was a lot more work than I thought. And we took chainsaws and we cut up all that, hired some excavators, and they came in and they've restored that pond. And the moment, we still have a lot of work to do on it, but the moment my dad casted in it again for the first time, it was like, it was a dream come to fruition. Yes. But I think the best way I can describe that manifestation is like for the first time, I may have a little bit of control over my life. This is one of those places you spend so much of your life feeling out of control, and you're not in control of the things that happen. But every now and then you can go, I'll take that. I am going to do whatever it takes, whether it's, finances aren't always the obstacle. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it's energy, sometimes it's just guts. And decide I'm going to do that. And when you do, it reminds you that you aren't just passively going through the universe, that you have input into what goes around you. And I think that's what this podcast today is for me, is this reminder that you aren't just passively riding around a big rock in the universe, but that you can dream this thing and see it. And that's this joy that I think we want to try to bring people.
Yeah, I think it's the idea of those dreams manifested.
Yeah.
And I think about how many business owners, John, particularly accounting firms that we've talked to over the years, who don't love the way their business operates, don't love the way their business is consuming them. They don't love the way tax season, overwhelms them, and what it's done to their families. And they don't allow themselves. I think they sort of dream that things could be different, but they don't really allow themselves to mentally see. I think we create most things twice. I think we create them in our mind, and then we choose to physically create them. I don't know about you, but that's sort of how I operate. I create it in my mind first, where I play it out, and then I try to go execute on that. And
yeah,
I think
something happens between those two creations to most people.
Yeah, I think so too.
The first time that you create something mentally, you feel free, you feel unencumbered by the physical
some clarity.
realities.
Yeah, I mean, creates some
And
clarity
it's clear,
in that.
yeah. But then turning it to reality, there is this space where something gets in the way. And I think the question, I'm not sure that we're ever going to talk about the answer on this podcast, because I think it's maybe different for every person. For me, my own anxiety just about life and upsetting the status quo and what that might do to my fight or flight thing in me would keep me from it. But for other people, it's other things that would keep them from it. And I think the question is, what is it between the first creation and the second creation that's keeping you from manifesting this thing?
I mean, I think that's the big question. If we do think about those as, two creations, it's filling that gap in between, which is super important. That's the dream manifested. Otherwise, you're just watching Fred Astaire, right? And you're dreaming about, wow, in my wife's case, she would be dreaming about Andy Griffith and Aunt Bee sitting on the front porch. I mean, that's where she feels comfortable. That's where she would put herself. And now we have a great back porch that looks over the woods, and we can just sit out there, and we spend all of our time out there. But yeah, we all have these set of dreams or things that we think about. What we're trying to encourage our listeners to do today is do more than just think about those things. Think about manifesting them.
Descartes said that there's, in a roundabout way, that the obstacle of our imagination coming to reality is fear. That is absolutely true of myself. I'm not sure it's true of everyone, but often the question is, what are you scared of? Like, what fear do you need to overcome in order to pull off that thing that's in your head, the first creation of that thing? Whether it's a social fear, whether it's a financial fear, whether it's it's just upsetting the status quo. What is it that you fear? And often that leads you to tackling the thing that might be in the way of bring it to fruition.
Some things are super small. If we just put your mind to it, some things are really small, some things are big, and I can see how people become afraid. But some things are as simple as playing Frank Sinatra when you're getting ready.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of an awareness, and just saying, this actually makes me feel good. And so I'm going to do it. Why not do it?
That's something you're really good at, Darren. it's something I'm learning from you. You know, I laugh, you make fun of me, or I make fun of you all the time. You always make fun of me for going to the bathroom too much, but I make fun of you because if we're going to meet somewhere, we have this coffee shop we go to virtually every day. If we're going to meet somewhere, you know where I'm going with this. I'm almost always there before you because I have a weird time thing. I'm almost always early, and I pick a seat. And when I pick the seat, I can guarantee you almost every time that Darren is going to sit down and go, "Do you mind if we move over there?" Because there's something about that other seat. And the truth is, sometimes I just kind of like laugh and smile and go, "I knew it was going to happen. I didn't even settle here." But often we go to that next seat and I'm like, yeah, why did I settle for that other one? I was hot and now we're in the shade, you know? And I think you're really good at stopping, at pausing and just going, let's do something little right now to just put ourselves in a little bit better place. Let's choose something a little bit different. And then before you know it, you've created a life, the one little thing at a time. And you've created a habit for pausing in between those two moments of creation and choosing whatever it might take from a pain perspective to move you to the second one.
I just think so many people just settle to be hot and sitting in the sun.
I'm one of those.
Because that's where they sat and the sun moved, right?
Yeah.
And that's just an analogy, but so many people settle for a business that just doesn't support the way they really want to live their life. I mean, you only got one of these guys, so why not just pay attention? If it's not working, then do something. Dream about something different and manifest that. Now, the other side of that is that my wife calls me Sheldon way too often, because when we walk into a restaurant, she's like, just go ahead and pick where
are we sitting, Darren? I'm learning the same thing. Darren, tell me where we're sitting. I don't want to move my bag again. Well, I hope you heard something today that gives you some pause. I mean, that's really always the goal of Better Every Day, is just to give you a moment to go, is there something that I am assuming? Is there something that I am passively accepting that I can be more intentional about? And that's always the word we come back to, just living with intent, and analyzing the things around us and going, am I intentional about this?
Start with something super small. If it's just that you decide that you like to listen to Frank Sinatra, then put it on for a little bit.
Yeah.
See how it makes you feel. I mean, it make you feel a little bit better. This is where Ralph is so good, John.
Yeah. The little things.
And so I think if nothing else, go download and watch Very Ralph.
Yeah.
And maybe this will make a little bit more sense to you today. So great chat, John. I love this topic.
Good conversation. I'm going to start getting to the coffee shop later and just letting you choose. So that's what I learned today. Hey, thanks for listening today. We hope you heard something that made you move towards better every day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, John.